I need to get this out because the past few weeks have been the most satisfying and exhausting stretch of my life. I'm Spencer, 31M. I left my hometown at 25 and haven't been back since. Not for holidays, not for emergencies, nothing. And no, I wasn't some screw-up running from consequences. I left because my family made it clear I was the one who didn't measure up. My dad, Logan, spent 34 years as a senior facilities coordinator for a big property management group. My uncle Billy married my mom's sister and ran a regional pest control operation. Not huge, but profitable enough that he acted like some mogul. My sister Esme married into a family that owns a small dry cleaning chain, 4 stores across 2 counties. Everyone was settled, everyone had a clear path in their minds. Then there was me. I got certified in HVAC and worked as a technician. To Logan and Billy, that was the ultimate embarrassment. Not because the work was bad, but because in their heads I chose to be blue-collar when everyone else had moved past that. Billy made comments at every gathering about me crawling through attics while his guys had company trucks. Logan never once asked how work was going. Every conversation steered to Esme's husband and the dry cleaning expansion or Billy's contracts. The breaking point was Thanksgiving when I was 24. I'd just been promoted to lead installer and I was proud. I mentioned it at dinner, and Logan looked at Billy and made a crack about someone having to fix AC units in real buildings. They all laughed. My mom Diana was already sick then, pancreatic issues getting worse for 2 years, and she was the only one who ever told me she was proud. She squeezed my hand under the table. 4 months later, she passed. After the funeral, I tried talking to Logan about staying closer, and he told me Diana had been the only reason he tolerated my career embarrassment. And now that she was gone, he didn't see the point pretending. So I left, moved 4 states away, got a job with a commercial HVAC contractor, and over 6 years worked into an operations management role. Got licensed in 3 additional trades, started consulting for property developers who needed mechanical system evaluations before purchasing buildings. And every single day I thought about that Thanksgiving table and Logan's face and Billy's laugh. I wasn't healing. I was building. Every promotion, every new certification, every contract I landed was fuel for something I knew was eventually coming. 3 months ago, I found out through my cousin Daisy's Instagram story that Logan was retiring. Big party, rented banquet hall, Esme organizing, Billy giving a toast. Nobody called me, nobody texted, I wasn't on any group chat. I found out through a 15-second reel of Esme holding up centerpieces. I decided to show up, not for reconciliation. I want to be clear about that. I had spent 6 years preparing for a moment like this, drove 11 hours on a Thursday, showed up Saturday night in a suit I bought for the occasion, walked in during appetizers, and Billy immediately made his comment about the family failure crawling back. Esme didn't get up, just said they hadn't missed me. Life was better without me. And Logan told me not to ruin his night, then said if I wanted to pretend I belonged, I should sit down, shut up, and pay the bill for everyone since it was the least I could do after 6 years of being a disappointment. I stood there for about 10 seconds, told them it was fine, this was the last time they'd ever see me, and walked out. But here's what they didn't know. While they sat in that banquet hall, I had already spent 2 months doing something none of them expected. My mom Diana's name was still on the deed to the family house. She and Logan bought it together in 1994, and when she died, there was no will. Under our state's intestacy laws, her half of that property passed to her surviving children, me and Esme. Logan kept living there, paying the mortgage, acting like it was entirely his. But legally, it wasn't. I had known this for 4 years because I paid a real estate attorney to pull the records after Diana passed. I sat on that information, waited, because I knew eventually they would give me a reason to use it. And when Logan told me to pay his bill and called me a disappointment at his own retirement party, the wait was over. 7 days after the party, I filed a partition action on the house. If you don't know what that is, I'm forcing the sale of a property with multiple owners who can't agree on its use. Logan can't stop it. Esme can't stop it. The court orders the house sold and proceeds divided by ownership shares. Logan's retirement was supposed to be his easy years. Instead, he got served with papers telling him his house was about to be sold from under him. That night, my cousin Daisy texted me, "Where are you? They're losing it. Please call." I didn't call. Turned my phone off and sat in my apartment thinking about Thanksgiving 7 years ago, about Diana squeezing my hand under the table. I'll update soon. The partition action was just the beginning. Okay, so I need everybody to understand the level of patience this man operated with. 6 years. 6 years. He had those property records sitting in a drawer somewhere, knew exactly what cards he was holding, and just went to work every day, got his certifications, built his career, While this family was out here clinking glasses at barbecues thinking Spencer was off somewhere failing, they were so comfortable in their little bubble of superiority that it never occurred to any of them to wonder, wait, does Diana's name still on the deed mean something? Nobody checked? Because to them, Spencer was the guy who crawls through attics, right? He couldn't possibly understand property law. He couldn't possibly be 3 steps ahead. And I want to talk about Logan for a second because this man was a facilities coordinator. He managed buildings for a living. And he's out here looking down on his own son for doing HVAC? Brother, your son fixes the systems in the buildings you manage. You are professionally dependent on people who do what Spencer does. The lack of self-awareness is genuinely staggering. And then to stand at your own retirement party, in front of your whole family, and tell your son to sit down and pay the bill? After 6 years of silence? You just handed a loaded weapon to a man who's been at the firing range every single day since you last saw him. And that detail about Diana squeezing his hand under the table at Thanksgiving? That's the kind of memory that turns a person into either a wreck or a weapon. Spencer chose weapon. Update 1. Alright, so a lot of you wanted an update and things have escalated faster than I expected, so buckle up. After the partition papers got served, I gave it 3 days before turning my phone back on. 47 missed calls. Daisy, Esme, Billy, 2 numbers I didn't recognize. A wall of texts from Esme that started polite, asking me to call so they could talk like adults, then shifted to telling me I was destroying the only thing Mom left behind, then straight up calling me selfish for doing this right when Dad was starting retirement. Classic Esme, framing everyone else's problems as inconveniences to her life. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. I had a timeline. Here's where it gets interesting. Daisy texted me actual information this time and told me Billy had offered to buy out my share of the house so Logan could stay, Billy positioning himself as the family's savior because he loved the idea of Logan owing him something that massive. That's how Billy operated with everyone, writing checks and reminding you about it for the next decade. He did it with my mom's sister. He did it with every holiday he hosted. And now, he wanted to do it with my inheritance. Problem for Billy was I had no intention of selling. A partition action doesn't let the other parties just buy you out unless everyone agrees. I wasn't agreeing to anything. I wanted the house sold on the open market, proceeds split by the court, Logan forced to find somewhere else to live on his pension. Not about money, about displacement. I wanted Logan to feel what it's like when someone looks at your whole life and decides it's not worth keeping around. Billy called me directly. I picked up because I wanted to hear him try. He started reasonable, saying this had gone far enough, everyone was stressed, we could work it out like a family. I let him go for about 2 minutes, then asked if he remembered Thanksgiving 2018 when he laughed at me for getting a promotion. Dead silence. Then he pivoted. Said that was years ago, people say stupid things. I needed to let it go because grudges would eat me alive. I told him the grudge wasn't eating me. It had been feeding me for 6 years. And if he wanted to play hero, he should probably worry about his own situation because the partition was just one piece of what I had going. Probably shouldn't have said that last part out loud, but I was angry and I wanted him to sweat. Now, here's the complication I didn't plan for. Esme's husband's family, the dry cleaning chain people, had been using the family house's detached garage as overflow storage for 2 of their locations for 3 years. Cleaning supplies, extra hangers, bagged inventory. Logan let them use it rent-free because Esme asked, and because anything helping Esme's husband's family was helping the family image in Logan's mind. Nobody told me. I found out because my attorney pulled the property survey and flagged commercial use of a residentially zoned structure. That garage sat on property I co-owned. Commercial storage in a residential zone without permits. If the city got involved, there'd be fines. And Esme's in-laws would have to move everything immediately, disrupting operations and creating a massive problem between Esme and her husband since she arranged the deal with Logan. I hadn't filed any complaint yet. I had the information, and I was sitting on it the same way I sat on the deed records for 4 years. Meanwhile, Logan finally texted me directly on a Wednesday night. We need to talk about the house. Call me when you can. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he said at the party. Just a demand dressed as a request. I waited 2 days, then called. That conversation went 40 minutes, the most I'd spoken to my father in 6 years. He started by saying the partition was an overreaction, that I was punishing him for one bad night, that he'd given 34 years to his career and deserved to retire in peace in the home he built. I let him finish, then walked him through everything. Thanksgiving 2018, the funeral, the comment about Diana being the only reason he tolerated me, the retirement party. I listed them with dates and told him I'd carried every moment for 6 years and the partition wasn't an overreaction. It was 6 years late. He argued I was taking things out of context, that he was hard on me because he wanted better for me. that Billy's influence made things worse than they needed to be, blaming Billy now. That was new. I told him it didn't matter who influenced what because he was my father, and he said those things at his own retirement party, and nobody held a script up for him. The call ended with Logan telling me I'd regret this. I told him I'd already lived through 6 years of regret and this wasn't adding to it. 2 days later, Daisy messaged me. Esme had found out about the garage situation from her own attorney reviewing the partition case. Apparently, Esme completely lost it on her husband because the storage arrangement was now a liability. Her husband was furious at Logan for not having a proper agreement. Logan was furious at Esme for dragging him into it, and Billy was trying to mediate while still pushing his buyout. The whole family was turning on each other, and I hadn't even played my next card yet. More soon. I need to talk about Esme's text messages because they're a masterclass in how people who've been cruel to you suddenly discover the concept of family when they need something from you. She went from, let's talk like adults, to, you're destroying mom's memory, to, you're selfish. And she cycled through all of that in what? 72 hours? That is not someone who cares about the family. That is someone running through manipulation tactics like a playlist on shuffle. And the thing that kills me about Logan blaming Billy during that phone call? Bro, you had 6 years of silence to reflect on what you said to your own son after his mother's funeral. 6 years where you could have picked up the phone and said, I was wrong. And instead, the first time you're forced to actually talk to Spencer, your move is to throw your brother-in-law under the bus? That tells me everything. Logan doesn't think what he said was wrong. He just thinks it was inconvenient that it had consequences. And Billy swooping in with the buyout offer is so perfectly Billy. He doesn't want to help Logan. He wants Logan to owe him a house. He wants to sit at the next Thanksgiving holding that receipt over everyone's head. These people don't love each other. They just trade favors and keep score. And then the garage. I'm sorry, but this is comedy at this point. They were running an unlicensed commercial storage operation on property they didn't fully own, in a residential zone, with no permits, and nobody thought to maybe, possibly, check if that was legal? Because they forgot Spencer existed. They literally treated him like he was nobody, and because of that, they forgot he was a co-owner. Their contempt for him made them sloppy. That is poetic on a level I could not write if I tried. Update 2. Things have gone completely sideways since my last post, and not just for Logan. Every single person in that family is dealing with consequences now, and the best part is most of it they did to themselves. I just lit the match. So after the garage situation came out through the partition case, Esme's husband went straight to Logan and demanded to know why there was never a written lease or permit for using the garage. Logan's answer was basically that it was his house and he could let whoever he wanted use it. Except it wasn't just his house, and now everyone knew that. Esme's husband started pulling his inventory out immediately because his family didn't want any exposure to fines or zoning violations. That took them almost a full week because they had 3 years of overflow crammed in there. And during that week, Esme called me 4 separate times. The first call I let go. The second one I picked up because I figured it was time to hear what she had to say directly. And honestly, Reddit, I was ready for it because I had been waiting 6 years for Esme to have to actually talk to me instead of just making her little comments from the sidelines. She opened by telling me I was tearing the family apart over a grudge. I asked her which family she meant because the one I remembered didn't include me. She said that wasn't fair, that she never personally attacked me, that she was just going along with things to keep the peace. I reminded her of the retirement party where she told me they hadn't missed me and life was better without me. She tried to say she was caught off guard and didn't mean it the way it sounded. I told her she had 6 years to pick up a phone and she never did, so the retirement party wasn't her being caught off guard. It was her being honest for once. Then she shifted tactics and brought up Diana. She said Mom would be devastated to see me forcing the sale of the house she raised us in. And that one actually made me pause because she wasn't wrong. Diana loved that house. But I told Esme that Diana would also be devastated. To know her husband told her son he only tolerated him because she was alive, and that her daughter sat at a retirement party and said life was better without her own brother. Esme didn't have a response for that one. The call ended with her asking what it would take to make this stop. I told her nothing. The partition was moving forward. Now here's where the pressure really started compounding. Billy's buyout offer was officially off the table because my attorney responded with a letter stating I would not accept any private sale and would only accept a court-ordered public auction. Billy took that personally because, in his mind, he was offering a generous solution and I was spitting on it. So Billy did what Billy always does when he feels disrespected. He started running his mouth to the extended family. Within a week, Daisy told me Billy had been calling relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, telling everyone I was trying to make my elderly father homeless out of spite. He framed the whole thing as me being ungrateful and vindictive, conveniently leaving out everything Logan said to me at the party or the 6 years of being treated like I didn't exist. Billy was building a narrative and I needed to respond to it. So I did something I had been planning for a while. I wrote a detailed message and sent it to every family member I still had contact info for. Daisy helped me compile the numbers. In the message, I laid out the full timeline. Diana's death, Logan's comment at the funeral, 6 years of zero contact from anyone, the retirement party, every word Logan and Esme and Billy said to me that night. I included the dates, I included the fact that nobody invited me, and I ended it by saying the partition action was my legal right as a co-owner of the property, and anyone who had a problem with it should ask Logan why his own son had to find out about his retirement party from an Instagram story. That message detonated. Within 48 hours, 3 of my aunts on Diana's side reached out to me saying they had no idea Logan had said those things at the funeral. 2 of them called Logan directly to confront him. One of Diana's cousins told Billy to stop calling people because the more details that came out, the worse it looked for their side, not mine. Billy was furious. He called me screaming that I had no right to air family business to everyone, that I was manipulating people, that this was between me and Logan, and I was dragging innocent people in. I told him he was the one who started calling relatives first. I just gave them the full picture instead of his edited version. He hung up on me. But the biggest development was Logan. Daisy told me that after the aunts confronted him, Logan went quiet. Not apologetic, not angry, just quiet. He stopped answering calls from Billy, stopped talking to Esme about the case, and started looking at apartment listings on his own. The reality of losing the house was setting in, and he had nobody to blame but himself because every single thing I put in that message was true, and he knew it. The partition hearing is scheduled. Esme's in-laws are still dealing with the garage fallout. Billy's reputation as the family mediator is destroyed because everyone now knows he was only telling one side of the story. And I still have one more move that none of them know about yet. Update coming after the hearing. I love that Billy had the audacity to call Spencer screaming about airing family business when Billy was literally the one making phone calls to every aunt, uncle, and second cousin with his own propaganda campaign first. Billy started a PR war and then got mad when Spencer showed up with better PR. That's like throwing the first punch and then filing a police report when you get knocked out. And Esme hitting Spencer with "Mom would be devastated." You know what? Maybe she's right. Diana probably would hate this, but you know what else Diana would hate? Her husband telling her son at her funeral that she was the only reason he was tolerated. Esme wants to weaponize their dead mother's memory, but only in the direction that protects her comfort. She never once used Diana's memory to call out Logan. She never said, "Mom would be devastated that you said that to Spencer." Funny how Diana's hypothetical feelings only get invoked when Spencer is the one causing problems. And I gotta be honest, the thing about Esme saying I was just going along to keep the peace is one of the most infuriating sentences a human being can say. Keeping the peace means staying quiet. It does not mean looking your brother in the face after 6 years and telling him life was better without him. That's not peacekeeping. That's participation. You weren't a bystander, Esme. You were on the team. You wore the jersey. And now Logan going quiet, looking at apartment listings. That right there is the sound of a man finally understanding that words have weight. For 30-something years, he said whatever he wanted to Spencer with zero pushback, zero consequences, and he genuinely believed that was permanent. He thought cruelty was free. Spencer just handed him the invoice. Final update. This is the last one. Everything landed and I want to lay it all out. The partition hearing happened on a Thursday morning. I flew in the night before. Stayed at a hotel 20 minutes from the courthouse, didn't tell anyone I was in town. I wanted to walk into that courtroom without any of them cornering me in the parking lot first. Logan showed up with a lawyer Billy paid for. Esme was in the gallery with her husband, who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Billy sat behind Logan like some kind of general. The whole crew lined up against me. Same formation as always, except this time, we weren't at a dinner table and nobody was laughing. Logan's attorney argued he had been the sole maintainer for 6 years. Paid every mortgage payment, every repair, every tax bill, and forcing a sale would cause undue hardship to a recently retired man. Solid argument, and I expected it. My attorney countered that Logan never reached out to formalize ownership, never petitioned to buy out inherited shares, never filed any claim for reimbursement during those 6 years. He just assumed the house was his. The judge noted co-ownership was legally established through intestacy, and my right to partition was valid. Here's the move none of them saw coming. My attorney introduced evidence that Logan had taken out a home equity line of credit against the full value of the property 18 months earlier. not his half, the full property, without my knowledge or Esme's consent. He used the money to fund renovations to Billy's office building. Logan borrowed against a house he only half-owned to upgrade Billy's pest control headquarters, and neither of them told anyone. The judge asked Logan's attorney if his client obtained co-owner consent before taking the credit line. The attorney asked for a recess. Through the hallway glass, I could see Billy and Logan arguing. Esme was on a bench with her head in her hands because she just found out Logan leveraged her inheritance too. When they came back, Logan's attorney argued Logan believed in good faith he had authority as the residing owner. The judge wasn't having it, stated that encumbering jointly owned property without consent created a serious issue that would factor into the ruling. Court ordered the sale. Public auction proceeds divided after the equity line was settled from Logan's share. Logan wasn't just losing the house. He was losing a massive chunk of the sale money because the debt came off his portion first. His retirement nest egg, the house he spent 34 years paying into, going to auction with a good portion of his cut already owed to the bank. I walked out without saying anything. Esme caught up to me in the parking structure, crying, asking if I was happy now, if this was what I wanted, to blow up the family over pride. I told her it wasn't pride. For 6 years, I waited for one phone call, one text, one invitation to anything, and it never came. The retirement party confirmed what I already knew. They considered me dead weight, and I told her if Logan hadn't taken out that credit line against property he didn't fully own, the sale would have been clean. He got greedy and careless, and now the consequences were his. She asked what I was doing with my share. I told her I was putting a down payment on my own place 4 states away, which is exactly what I did. Billy contacted me twice after, both times arguing the renovations were a family investment and I should consider that. I told him he received the benefit of a loan taken against my property without permission, and if he felt that was unfair, he could take it up with Logan. Logan never contacted me again. Daisy told me he moved into a 2-bedroom rental on the east side of town. Billy and Logan stopped speaking because the equity line made Billy look like the reason Logan lost most of his sale money. Esme's husband's family cut ties with Logan over the garage situation and the borrowing against property their daughter-in-law partially owned. Every one of them called me the family failure at that retirement party. Now Logan is renting, Billy lost his closest ally, and Esme's marriage is strained by her own father's decisions. I'm back in my apartment 4 states away. Down payment saved, career I built from nothing, and the knowledge that when they told me to sit down and pay the bill, I stood up and handed them one instead. Diana would have hated all of this, but she was the only one who ever loved me in that family, so this one was for both of us. The home equity line of credit. The home equity line of credit. Logan took out a loan against property he did not fully own, property his dead wife left to their children, and used that money to renovate Billy's pest control office. Let that marinate. The man who spent decades mocking his son for being blue-collar secretly borrowed against his son's inheritance to fund upgrades for the uncle who laughed at him at Thanksgiving. Logan was so deep in his own delusion of authority that he didn't think the law applied to him. He just walked into a bank, signed papers on a house 2 other people legally owned, and nobody blinked until Spencer's attorney dropped that evidence like a brick through a window. And Billy sitting behind Logan in court like a general. Brother, you were sitting behind the guy who just got exposed for using stolen equity to remodel your building. You're not a general. You're an accomplice who's about to become a liability. And the fact that Billy and Logan stopped speaking after the hearing tells you everything about what that relationship actually was. It was never family. It was a transaction. Logan gave Billy free garage space and equity-funded renovations. Billy gave Logan validation and a retirement party toast. The second the money dried up and the legal exposure got real, they dropped each other like they were never related. And Esme in that parking garage asking, "Are you happy now?" I actually think that's a fair question. And I think Spencer's answer would be complicated and honest, which is, no, probably not happy. Relieved, maybe. Vindicated, definitely. But happy. You don't do what Spencer did out of happiness. You do it because the alternative was carrying all of that for the rest of your life and letting them win by default. And I gotta say, Diana would have hated all of this. Might be the most self-aware line I've ever read on Reddit. Spencer knows this wasn't noble. He knows his mom wouldn't have wanted it. But he also knows his mom was the only person who squeezed his hand under that table, and every single person who should have filled that role after she died chose cruelty instead. Spencer didn't blow up this family. This family was already demolished. He just made the ruins visible.